Practice kind of thing within a team to define some standards. So these are the standards which we define. And you can very well proceed without any templates. Yes, you can go and browse through the AL tables in the repository and you can get the count. But the problem there is, if you are a developer, you are running your job from your own repository, you have your own AL table, whereas other one person has other AL table. There is no common place. And if you are going into a production environment, you are running, yes, you have only one table where you have all the information about all the jobs, you can make use of that. Okay, guys? So can I go with the next step, the in-scoping part?
This table would keep growing, right? Because you're going to run the jobs several thousand times, right?
Yeah, in the development environment, yes, it keeps going, but we have a way in the database that we can control. You can say maintain only the, like if you look at the data services management console, it will show you only the last 90 days of log. It will automatically delete the rest. In the same way, you can put a control at the database level by writing a rolling partition. The rolling partition will automatically maintain the table. So it maintains only the last 100 days or 120 days of log, and it can delete the remaining. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when the job fails, how we will see the information in this table workflow?
So as simple as if a job fails, the job will be showing here. The run status would be just still as started, because the job started and it never completed. You'd not see the update happening as completed, and you'd see the end time as a null value. And if there is any error that by default data services could really get you, it will write the error log. And one other important thing I wanted to mention is why this template is important is there are several functions that are given by data services. But the information we try to do is combine all the functions and get the magical information you want. For example, there is a default function in data services that will give you the error context, that will give you the error timestamp, and that will print the error message. What I am trying to do is I'm combining all the three and then storing it into a table. All I did here is I'm concatenating context, timestamp, and also the error message, and sending you an email, which you need not go and look at your log and debug what kind of a failure has happened. I'm sending an email directly when there is a failure, and you get it on your smartphone. You look at it, you call the administrator and give him a fix, saying you have the flag is wrong, or if the database is down, it would print an error message, the database was down and it could not do a TNS ping. So that kind of errors and functionalities which are by default given by data services, but they have given it as separate functions, and I'm combining the functionality. And if you see here, the CF job status function, nothing else I'm doing. I'm saying update it as failed, and then it write the error. So that's all I'm trying to do here. And if we try to sort it or filter it, most probably based on the failed records, we may be able to see something which has even a job failure log. Let me see.
After the job is failed, how will it start again?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, as part of the restartability mechanism I have put together here, you would see that. Just hold on your breath for a couple of more moments and you would get the information. So if you look at the framework package, I did not want it to tell that at the extract level, but because there come up a question, I'm telling you. So if you go into the conditional, if you see here, this internal workflow, I have put it as a recover as a unit. And if you remember from the past classes, I mentioned one time you can checkbox this recover as a unit, and at the runtime you can always say run in the recover mode. Does any one of you remember that I showed you this?
Yes.
Yeah, I try to show this option. Enable recovery. If you run this with enable recovery, next time it will give you an option, recover from last failed execution as the option, and you can recover it by setting the flag. Okay. So that is a default option that we have, whereas as I told you, few organizations follow. We don't want at the workflow level, we want strictly at the data level. If 1,000 records are being committed, let me start only from 1,001 record, then you have to put your own scripts, go and identify what is being committed and get the timestamp of it and then run the remaining only. Or you can use the auto correct load mechanism on the target side if the volume of the table is small. If it is a bigger table, we cannot use the auto correct load option because it is a performance issue.
Ganesh, one question. Is this process source dependent or independent?
This is all source dependent, right? The extract process, if the source is available, only then it can start. In that way, it is source dependent. And the ETL framework is source independent. Any source, the framework is only for our own purpose in the ETL job, but it has nothing to do with what kind of source it is extracting. Okay, guys?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Can I proceed forward, or you still have a confusion, or do you think showing this is not going to be very useful for you? I can skip this topic and directly run a job and then load the SAP environment and then wash my hands. So it is only for the information I am trying to show you, but if it adds confusion, I will take this off.
Oh, can you tell once again about the autocorrect load?
Okay. The autocorrect load option is you have at the target table options. Let me go and show you. In the target, you have these options in which you have this use input keys and autocorrect load. What this can do is, if you just give it a key value, if you mention it to autocorrect load, if in case of a failure when the job is run in a recovery mode, it will not delete the target table and then redo it. Instead, it will say, okay, these 10 records already exist in the target. Let me only do an update, not an insert. So it won't do anything. It will just get the new records and insert them, but it will keep the existing records as it is.
Okay.
So that is one of the options that we have here. And if you remember, we used this option when we have built the type 1 transformation. You remember that? The type 1 dimension actually. Yeah, we tried to use that option there. So this is the extract template. And if I just, let me know guys, it is the right time for you to say, okay, we don't want this templating. Let's just jump into the reality. I jump into the reality and show you the extraction and the loading part. Is it adding any confusion for you guys?
No, I will wait till the end. I'll ask questions afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, we'll just reserve a couple of questions to the end of the story. So the in-scoping. In-scoping is something which client gives several business rules. He will say extract only active customers. Extract only the customers that fall with this particular condition. So you are going to put all your extraction, the in-scoping logic here. And why I call in-scoping is, in your source system, there could have been 1 million customers. But when you go into SAP, you want it to go as a clean person or the cleanest possible data. And you are converting only those who are active customers. So active customers, you cannot define yourself who is an active customer. Only a business person can define saying, okay, if this condition is met, is called an active customer. So let me go into the real job of the customer. There we will see the same in scoping. The extract template is being shown to you, and now we will go into the reality. This is the tier 1 extract that we have put together, and this is the customer template I have put together. So the same exact naming conventions were being followed, and if you see here, the SA replace me was being replaced by customer. You see here, you can compare between these two. Just look at flip your eyes to the bottom and up. So project area and local object library. You see the SA replace me is replaced by customer, and job ID replace me is replaced by the job number. And this is the customer extract. And in the customer extract, they have only one source. Because for customer, they determined there is only one source system that they need. And these are all the number of tables that they had for the customer related data. So they are being extracted in parallel. Though you see them in a sequence here, they are not connected. They are just the extraction is happening in parallel. So you extract all this data. They all have good naming convention. If you see, we are saying phase 1 job 100 extracting CDZ 210 barn 4, and the extract table name is E_210 TCC com 10. That is the extract table name. So we all know that this particular workflow is meant to extract so and so table from so and so system. So there is no much logic in the extraction. If you see, the straightforward query transform is being used, and we extracted the data. Then comes the next step, the transformation of or in-scoping of the data. Where I have the in-scoping of the data, I will show you. Let me pull out the customer in-scope job here. So for the in-scope job, I have given a number as 101. So in the in-scope logic, if we get into it, the CDZ barn 4 system is the in-scope system for the customer extract. Oh, I think I don't have the latest. What's that noise there? So no, it's just to wake you up, guys. Sometimes, while listening to me, even you might sleep. When you fell asleep, I'm here to wake you up.
I can still hear the yam.
Yeah, I know. Being on an online session is not that easy. It is not only tough for me to actually deliver what I want, it is tough for you to even keep listening to me. So in the in-scoping step, as I told you, business people will give you certain rules. Let me pull out at least one document that might be of your interest, then we will just go forward with the rest. So in the working directory, I have customer phase 3, 3.1. Extract, transform, and load requirement. So all they are saying is the legacy object customer, this is a sold to customer, this is a ship to customer. So as sold to customer, they are saying your source tables are this much, this is your extraction table logic, so they have given you certain information. And finally, they will say, this is the SAP table where you have to load. If you remember yesterday's class, I have shown you whatever the templates that are being delivered as part of the migration services. This is exactly the same template, except that we have put the source information. If you see, the left-hand side is the source information, the right-hand side is the actual SAP table information. So they have given you a logic saying, this is my customer information located in so-and-so system, so-and-so table. So if you see here, the logic is being given here. Extract all customers where this is the condition. And they are saying if they fall within last 6 months between July 2012 and December 2012, or if the customer is a bankrupt, extract him. So that is the condition that is being given by business. And we cannot question, why do you want to extract the bankrupt customers? It is their business and they determined they wanted to pull the bankrupt customers and they are pulling it. But The one important thing you'll have to notice is we did not implement this logic in our extract job. Instead, we are implementing this logic in our transform in scope job. The reason for that is at any time you don't have access to the source system. So if you extract the entire data and stage it in your E table,
Yeah, now it's okay.
so we have been given this kind of an in-scoping rule, and the in-scoping logic we are applying in the second step. That is, we have put an in-scope template where you can go and put this condition, put a cutoff date, or you determine whatever the logic that is being given to you. So this is the rise of document, which they call it as. I mean, in SAP world, they have put these templates together, which makes the project easier to be executed in short time. So they have given all these templates. All the business analyst team is doing is they have to find an equivalent of the customer number. If you see here, right hand side column M, you have a customer number. In the legacy system, if you see, they are saying the customer number comes from CUNO column and from this table TCC-COM 10. So we pull the data from that and map it to this. But can we map them directly? Logically, yes, but physically, really not. Because the two will be in a different languages, different character sets, and there needs a lot of cleansing. You don't want it to get the junk into your target. To go back and say in my own words, all you're trying to do is again move from your single bed apartment to your single family home, and you don't want to carry the junk with you. Though we are all optimistic guys saying, okay, the data is really good, why don't we move it right away? While you move it, you'll see, no, this data is not so good, let me polish it, let me clean it, and then move it. So we implement that as part of the in-scope template. And then finally comes the very important part of it, that is the transform template. That is where you have to put tons of logic. There comes the priority where you have to start really using all kinds of data services functions, data quality functions, and whatnot. Whatever you have in your world, you have to use that.
Sorry, Ganesh, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, I think you were trying to explain why you were trying to do it in scope rather than apply the rule at the extract level.
Uh-huh.
I think you were trying to explain and you got delayed. So the
Yes, I think I completed that part. What I mentioned is in the extract, if you try to implement the extract logic that is being given by the customer, then you have only the required data into your own staging environment. But anytime you don't have access to the production system, if you have put a wrong logic, let us say, it has not extracted the required data, then you can't go back to the source again at any time and extract it. So we are trying to extract as it is into our staging environment. That's a best practice. And in the staging environment, you are trying to scope the data and build your table in the staging environment. So that when the developer makes a rule, if the rule is not working, if the condition is not working, he can still adjust the condition and say, out of 1,000 customers I have, there are only 10 customers that are in scope for our conversion. The rest of them are being rejected, and here is the data set in my reject table. I can provide it back to the customer.
So in terms of database space, isn't that a problem, or that's overlooked because it's still important to have the
Murthy, your voice isn't that clear actually. I'm having a hard time. I'm pressing on my headphone into my ear.
No, I mean, like in terms of space, because let's say for the first load, you're just loading 65 million records or 65 million or 80 million customers. You still follow the same practice even though the volume is too high.
And this can be good at the master data level. The second set is the transaction data where you can filter it. So we are now talking at the master data level, which is the customer master, material master, and vendor master. Once you exclude your customers that are out of scope, then while extracting the transactions for that customer, you can always put an filtering while you extract. But even in that place, the best practice in the development environment is don't filter away anything in the source. still get it into your staging environment and work on it. It is more or less to be very simple about it, guys. You go to the market, you have picked up a right set of vegetables you want. On the way, you see that one of the vegetable is not good, don't throw it away. Let it get into your kitchen stadium, identify it, and torture the vegetable before you certify it is not good for your conversion. It's like that. So it is always good to get it into your own place and play with it instead of dropping it while in transition. Okay, guys? No?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So the in-scoping rule, so for you, just to understand what I try to mention here is I recap, extract as it is and apply your rules in the in-scope part. And the in-scope and the transform can be combined. There is no rule that we have to keep it separately. This is only for this particular client we have implemented this way because he wanted like that. So if you wanted to look into the target table of the in-scope, you have it called as an I table. So we are calling the good data that is being extracted from your source system, and if the I table is loaded, we say there are the in-scope customers, go and look at the table. They can certify, yes, this is the customer record that we want to be converted into SAP. So that's a simple placeholder for them to go and see and confirm. And if you say I have rejected the rest 90 customers, they'll go and see in the reject table and certify, okay, these 90 customers are being rejected because they don't follow the business rule which I have put together there. They may be not the bankrupt customers, they may be not the active customers, they may be not active in certain period of time. Business user has defined that rule and we follow that rule. That is the in-scoping part of it. Now comes the actual transform part, which is the quite cumbersome process that we have put together, because that is where the actual skill of a developer comes into picture. So far, so good, very easy, extracted, put a filter and you're done. But here comes the biggest challenge when you wanted to do the transformation step. So let me pull the most recent transform job instead of the older job that I have, because I did not work on the customer part of it, so I have a very old job. Okay, this is a very good, fantastic job in the material world. So material is complex to understand, so let me go into the customer itself. Yeah, this is the job still in the customer world. Let me see, if this comes up, this is a very good job where we have several topics. Okay, all I'm trying to show you is the real-time thing. This is the in-scope job, and I'm trying to show you there could be some conditions that have been applied for all the in-scoping logic for all the tables that we have extracted. So this is the customer extract, and they have in-scoped it, and I'm getting into one of the data flows just to show you what kind of in-scoping logic they would have applied. It is a very straightforward logic when you look at the customer world. So they just have applied a filtering rule here. Sales header is a filtering rule they had, and the customer data, whatever they are trying to extract is, they have put a condition here. So they are trying to replace something and then transform the data and put it into, not the transforming, actually in-scoping the data, and then they're putting into our target environment, that is the in-scope tables. But the most important thing I wanted to show you is how it works while you develop the transform step. Transform cannot just happen like that. You have to look at how dirty the data is, and you start working on it, and then you have to fix several issues, and finally then use the loading package that is being delivered by iDocs. So let me share my screen right now. We are in good shape. This is the transform job, and it is the same template I was trying to show you. The initialization has happened in the same way like we see in the extract job. And if I go into the first one, yesterday I was trying to show you SAP world works like each segment. So in the customer master, you do have several segments. The first segment out of it is the basic data, which is the KNA1 table. The second segment is KNVV table. The third is KNVP. followed by K and V1, K and B1 kind of thing. So they are all sequential loads that we have to do. So whatever you say here, see here is the reality. The first step we implement is we remediate the data. We remediate the data. Remediation is nothing but you are curing the data. You are curing the data so that it goes into the format which the target system is looking for. So I'm trying to show you one real-time job that is being developed, and you see how much intelligence has put into each job to remediate them, to DQ, to apply any kind of a DQ functionality on top of it, and finally input it to the AO packages. So as I was mentioning you, AO packages are meant for only loading data into SAP, but they don't really standardize the data as it is required. They can validate the data if the data is standard or not. So we have almost 10 to 12 remediation steps we have put together here. You see, there are more than one step in the remediation, and whatever you are seeing is the reality. This is how a transform job looks like. The most cumbersome part of any ETL job is getting this transform working properly. So after you do the remediation, you implement some data quality norms. So in the basic data, if you have the customer address information has to be standardized based upon few of the directories that come as part of the data services installation. They don't come as a default installation. You have to install the directories, and we do have the directories that are installed on our server, but it is partially it has some issues, and I'm trying to fix that. But data quality is also very important as part of data migration. You are the one who has to use certain USPS directories or some address directories. It might be USPS or it might not be USPS, but you have to use several address directories and then make it work for you. So finally, I wanted to show one important part in data quality where you standardize the data just before you say the data is ready for loading into your customer master. Because on the SAP world, we don't control anything. All we are trying to do is we run the load, and the iDocs will get posted onto the SAP world. And in the iDocs, if they get presented to SAP, SAP has its own validation within a ERP system that validates the data before it actually commits it into the ERP system. So we will in a bit go into SAP environment and even look at that. So this is what you see is the reality. There are several merge programs happening. There are several things that we try to do to identify duplicates, and finally we move into the target. So let me also show you there one at least data quality transform I wanted to show you, but I'm not 100% sure where the data quality transform is being used. So just bear with me 1 minute. I'm sure they have used data quality transforms within the customer master transition, but it could not be in the basic data. It could be in the address information. So let me just see the DQM step of it, and we will understand if we have any data quality, how we use the address directories. It is same as I tried to show you how we get the country data being cleaned. In the same way, you can apply several address directories. So let me look at one other segment where it might have the address. So the remediation step, I go into the remediation. I have the data quality here, customer sales order, customer data remediation is still happening. So do not worry about 100% of flow, but you have a lot of logic or lot of functionality that you have to put it into the transformation step of it. That is the most cumbersome step that the developer will be spending time to transform the data as it is required by SAP. So you do several transformations and make sure that the data is passed into the iDoc structure as it is being required. For example, I just wanted to go into one of transform, remediate, perform remediation, tax indicators. If I am not wrong, it should be part of the basic data, but let me look at it if we have the address information in basic data or not. If we have address information, then I can show you at least one data quality transform, and we should be able to cover the rest of the things soon. I don't see the data quality there, but whatever the visual things which you are seeing is the reality. This is how the real ETL job looks like. There is not anything that we are trying to show you that is not true. It is all true. This is how we build the jobs. This is how many number of steps you may have in the transformation of the data from the source system into the target system before you plug on to the AIO packages. I am trying to show you one single step of using data quality transforms as part of the transformation, but I have hard time to find it. Yes, finally I came there. So this is the one important transform. So in here you are trying to actually use a data quality transform. The data quality transform here we are using is a match transform, which you remember I promised you that I would show you the deduping logic. That is the reason I was trying to check through the steps so that I reach the exact place and I can show you what deduping, how we can perform the match operation. So we have extracted the data and we transformed the data, and you remember the E tables are meant for extraction, I tables are meant for in-scoping. Finally, the T tables are meant for the extracted granulated data. But it is supposed to be there are going to be duplicates in the data which we extracted. So how we identify a data is duplicated is what the match transform does here for us. So I'm right now getting into the match transform. The input for it is primary name BDC, and then the primary name primary number BDC, which is the two columns which can be useful, and the secondary address and postal code is also considered. So all we are trying to do is input these four columns, and then if you go into the options, you would see the fields that are being used. Mapped fields are postal code 1, address primary, and actually the customer also. So it can go and find duplicates based on the information we have provided it. It can go and check based on this. The other important thing is you can actually supply little more information, saying like duplicate. Confirm that this particular one is a duplicate only if it just is matching the same last name, the same number, and also what it is, the zip code also. So if a person has the same name and the same number and the same zip code, it is not going to be a coincidence that a person with the same name living in the same environment has the same address, which means he is a duplicate person in our system. Physically there is only one person, but our system duplicated it. It made multiple entries into it. So the DQM part of it or the DQ part of it is put into picture to identify duplicates, identify bad address, standardize it. Finally, after you massage the data, that is when you will be reaching a step of loading using iDocs. So we are going to just look at how the data is being plugged into the iDocs finally, and then you'd see the Excel sheet that is being given by the migration package will no more exist. You would replace the Excel sheet with all the transformed data that you have come up. So if you see here, I'm trying to show you how the deduping works is use the match transform and you dedupe the data finally. After you dedupe the data, it is the time to plug in into our iDoc environment, and it just can load. Yeah, the remote desktop is also being shared. So what I am trying to show you here is, if you look at the customer iDoc job, it is all working on source as Excel sheets. So we are going to replace whatever the data we bought in after you extract, transform, and then you plug it into the AO packages by removing most probably the first two options here or the first option itself. You remove this and you plug in your table, run the iDocs with proper settings, the settings which I wanted to show you is in the properties you have couple of global variables where you have to set up the system number, the system name, and the IDOC structure that has been provided by the basis team. Only the basis team will be able to give you the information what the IDOC name is, what is the system you are trying to load in, and information like that. So in the match transform, I just wanted to come back a little more and then show you what we are trying to do in the match transform. The deduplication is the one which we are performing in the match transform, and if you see here, the match criteria, it indicates we are trying to do on the address primary comparison, and the length of it is 20 characters. We are trying to take the first 20 characters of the primary address, and if they match, and also the secondary address, we are taking the key length of 8 characters, and if that also matches, we go forward and compare at every level. All we are trying to do is compare, taking 4 or 5 columns which you think will figure out which is the duplicate, that we are using the match transform to do it. This is a very basic transform that we have, but you know there are tools even for doing the deduplication, and one of them is Eminem. Eminem is a merge and match tool that is also out of the SAP box. It is not an SAP proprietary tool, but they recommend using it. If at all your data services cannot do a proper merge and match the data and then certify it as not a duplicate, then they would recommend you to use even advanced tools like match and merge tool. So you might not be surprised to see in an environment where you have all these transforms in picture, but still you are not using these. Instead, you are going for a third-party tool. The one important thing I wanted to show you here, see here, the address primary name, starting position 1, and the length is 3 characters. So if the first 3 characters are matching and the address is matching, we are certifying that as a duplicate, because that is how the data exists in the source system. So we use all this and finally come up with a last table. That is the table which we are going to plug in into the IDOC. So let me switch on to the IDOC job directly. And you will see this is the reality. After we post the jobs, I will show you the final thing, how it looks like in SAP. So this is the same IDOC structure that we have in our own lab environment. And you go and see here the customer master basic. All they try to do is they remove the source table, the Excel sheet, and plug in the source table and then run the load, because you have transformed the source data into the target data. You see here, they just mapped it away with the customer master table, and we are calling it as an A table, which means, yes, this is the final data that I wanted it to be moved into my customer master in SAP World. And there ends the story. After you kick off this, you'll see what kind of failures that can happen in the system, what kind of IDOCs are being posted, and what failed and what succeeded. But let me